Welcome to Mishna study Masechet Terumot Perek Mishna Dalid. Over here in this Mishnah, we continue on last Mishnah very much because we're going to open up with Bameh Devarim Amurim. In what case, right? How so? Right. So remember last Mishnah, and I'm going to explain about how I think this makes the most sense, especially according to Rambam, because it seems like Rambam in his end of the last Mishnah in the Perush, he really led into this Mishnah, and that is. When are we speaking about? Meaning, when are we speaking about? Right. When Rabbi Yosef explained Hachamim, we said that if the first person did not give the same amount, right, as the second person, then the second person counts. What the second partner gave counts. So if the first person, separated, 1%, the next partner comes, he gives more, right? Then the second partner's is going to count, right? Teruma tashani teruma. Now we're saying, but when is this so? Right? When is this so? If they were not speaking to one another, if they weren't relying on one another, they didn't discuss beforehand who's going to take care of it. That's when the second person, if he gave more, the second partners would count. But let's say they really discussed beforehand. No, that's not what the last Mishnah was talking about. If they really discussed beforehand and they planned it out, right? Then whatever the first person gave, that's only what's going to count, and the second partner's thing means that, right? Bartanura has a very different perush over here. He actually explains that this Bameh Devarim Amurim is only going back under Rabbi Akiva, which is an interesting perush, a little difficult. Tosfot Yom Tov is maksheh on him, but I explained the way I think Rambam would explain based off his commentary at the end of last Mishnah. Now the Mishnah continues, Aval hirshad ben beto oet abdo oet shivhato litrom. But let's say he allowed one of his family members, his slave, his maidservant to separate teruma. Teruma to teruma. His teruma counts. Bitel. Let's say he said, oh, hold off. Don't separate it as teruma. He canceled the shlichut. Im ad shelo taram bitel and teruma to teruma. Right? If the shaliach didn't separate the teruma yet, and he was mevatel, and we told him not to do it before he carried out the shlichut of separating the teruma, right? Then it doesn't count. There's no teruma. But let's say the shaliach already separated teruma, and then he told him, right, not to carry out the mission, not to separate teruma. Then the teruma counts. Right? I would point out over here that Rambam says, interestingly enough, he says this is on condition ubitnai that the shaliach did not do as he said. That's when you'll say that en teruma to teruma. Right? Even if the shaliach went out, you told the shaliach before he actually separated the teruma, you told him not to carry out the shlichut, and he did it anyway. And Rambam is going to say that teruma still counts. And why? Right? So why? Because he's going to say, because we have an ikaret tzlenu, en adam mevatel shlichuto bedavar. A person can't be mevatel, he can't cancel out his shlichut with his own words. Words can't nullify other words. Once you appoint a shaliach, it counts. Now, if the shaliach didn't carry out the shlichut, let's say you told him separate from the eastern side, you said separate from the western side, and you told him beforehand, I don't want you to carry out this mission, I don't want you to separate the teruma, then in teruma to teruma, then the teruma wouldn't count. But if he carried out exactly like you said, even if you told him beforehand not to carry it out, it still counts. In the next case, the Mishnah is po'alim, you have employees, and they don't have they're not allowed, right? They have no permission to separate teruma on your crops. Except for the darochot are those that would step on the grapes, they would press the grapes. Why are they allowed? Because when they're stepping on the grapes, the grape juice comes out right away. Now, grape juice is one of the 7 liquids that make fruit susceptible to becoming tameh. So as soon as that grape juice comes out, it's touching the grapes. Now, all those grapes are susceptible to becoming tameh. Now, because that's the case, we don't want anything, all this tevel, to become tameh, and then you're going to have teruma that's tameh. So we want to avoid that. So if, right, because, right, Rambam says, because they have the ability to actually make everything tameh, right? Because it's becoming susceptible, it's mukhshal tumah, becoming susceptible to tumah when they're stepping on it. So kevan shesecharam nidroch, because he hired them to press the grapes, and right? He set them in his place, right? To step on the grapes, and now also he gave them the ishur, he gave them the permission, right? In essence, he gave them permission to also separate teruma, and these are the only employees that are allowed to separate teruma on their own. That is the people that are stepping on the grapes, because they could potentially make it tameh right away.